Hello, everyone. This is your host, Akil Jabbar, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS District. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how to reduce churn and increase your retention of your SaaS customers using personalized gifts. Today, we have our guest, Kris Rudeegraap, joining us. Kris is the co-founder and CEO of Sendoso, a leading sending platform that helps companies stand out by promoting new ways to communicate with the consumers throughout the buyer's journey. They enable B2B sales, marketing, and customer success teams to offer both digital and physical gifts to buyers and customers. He has worked at Talkdesk, Yapstone, and Piqora, and has over a decade of experience in sales, where during that time, he realized that using direct mail and gifts to create meaningful interactions was an effective approach to driving demand and increasing sales. And thus the idea for Sendoso was born. So welcome, Kris. Super excited to have you on the SaaS District show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. Excited to chat.
So I'd love to hear, right? Most people listening in, founders, marketers, they understand how digital marketing works. A lot of email marketing, maybe some SMS marketing, but using, both those, right? The combination, physical and digital. Can you speak about, how you suggest even going about building that, starting from scratch? I want to build a sound go-to-market strategy that combines both of those, physical and digital. Can you speak about that, how we can go about that?
Yeah, for sure. And so I'll kind of preface this that with a lot of companies already kind of do a little bit of this offline marketing. They just don't do it well. The category has hundreds of billions a year being spent on corporate gifting, direct mail, promotional products, but it's a very manual spreadsheet driven process. And so that's really where we came about. So I'd assume most every listener has sent a gift out, sent a mailer out at one point in their career, whether it's sales, marketing, success, or even to an employee. And so what I think about is how do you really operationalize that? And I think that's key so that you can do it time and time again. So it's a part of your process. And so I think the first thing that starts is really, how do you map out the buying journey? And how do you really make it so that you are very definitive around when do you want the digital touch, the SMS, the physical mailer, the phone call, and how does that look throughout the kind of top of funnel, SDRs outbounding to middle of funnel with AEs and account executives to closing the deal, and then all the way into the customer journey too, because I think that's also an important touch point from a perspective of reducing churn and really increasing retention is how do you look at all these different touch points that you could have, and how do you really add in these gifting and mailer components to that. So I think a lot of companies maybe fail to do that. I think product teams do that really well, is they say, hey, where are all the different product touch points that we want users using our product to engage with. And so product and design teams love that, but marketing and sales teams, I think that way, but never actually articulate it enough so that the entire company knows. So I think that's step one. I'd say step two is really leveraging software to do it better. In all honesty, it's a pain in the butt to send stuff out if you're doing it manually. No one wants to pack boxes, go to the post office, go source things, have a little mini warehouse in their office or their garage. And so I think you do have to leverage a platform like Sendoso if you want to operationalize it so you can do it time in, day out. I think you also want to integrate it into your other workflow tools. So, integrate it into your sales engagement tools like Outreach or SalesLoft or Groove, so that it becomes a step within those sequences, or into your Marketo or HubSpot or Eloqua marketing automation, so it becomes a step within that, or integrate it into your CRM, so it becomes a touch point there where you can see it and click when you need to. So I think the integration piece into software will also help building it into your strategy so that you can do it without effort. And then I think the very last thing to really think about is how do you take the onus off of a single individual? So previously, a lot of times marketing would own like a batch and blast for gifting. And so it put all the onus on this one person, this one time. And I think sales and marketing and customer success is now real time. And you have, at your organization, many people that are talking to prospects or customers at any given time. And so how do you kind of take what used to be done one to many and bring it down to one to one? And I think, again, there's really where like some software like Sendoso helps out, because we can make it so that you can give budgets and assign certain things that SDRs, AEs, account managers, CSM, support people can send when the time is right.
So it's all about, setting, it's part of the nurturing kind of experience of, okay, I'm sending a touch point. This is my email I'm sending, whether they interact with it, you book a call, maybe a couple of days later, send them a nice gift. Thank you for your time. That kind of flows out. I see it. Okay.
Exactly.
And then if I'm looking at it from an overall, marketing plan, sales plan, I want to see ROI, right? Just like any other channel with email marketing, any other thing. How do you kind of demonstrate that the ROI clearly for this channel?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple different ways to do it. One is you can demonstrate the ROI by really attaching the recipients of these different gifts to campaigns in Salesforce or your CRM. So you can start to track campaign influence. And I think that historically wasn't done for gifting. You just kind of send it and cross your fingers. Now with software, you can programmatically attach a campaign to everything that is sent out so that you can track the results of that campaign through your attribution software. So that's one way. Two is, the performance of the channel. So if you're seeing that the campaigns are performing, what is the ROI of doing more of that? And so I think that's where you'd say, hey, well, if I could send 10 times more stuff and I can move dollars away from, maybe ads that aren't doing as well as this gifting channel, then you can start to see more of an ROI on the channel itself. And then I think the last two are really based on one, cost of goods sold. So if you can work with a provider that is able to provide you with goods cheaper than you could buy yourself, then you can see a return on ROI just based on the cheaper, better priced cost options. And then the last thing is just the time. So if you have an expensive demand gen marketer or an expensive enterprise AE packing boxes or trying to order things, what's the ROI on them focusing on selling time and not on administrative operation time and the ROI of time?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess, the amount of time you're ordering it, finding the right thing, deciding what to do, and then shipping it out and waiting, all this with a couple of clicks, seems a lot more easier.
Correct.
So I would love to hear from your side. So this is one way of how, marketers can use it. You guys yourself, Sendoso, it's been, just under 5 years, you and Braden have turned, one of the hottest startups in San Francisco. I think you raised over 152 million, still expanding, rapidly growing. What have you seen as, one of the best plans, best channels that have worked on the growth and marketing side for you? What worked well?
Yeah. So I'd say one channel that we really invested in early is partnerships and integrations and co-selling. And so this is really, how do we build an integration with some of these different partnerships? Like I mentioned, SalesLoft and Outreach and Salesforce and Marketo, and how do we do co-selling and co-marketing with them? So I think that anytime you can leverage a really successful brand when you're early in your startup days and sync yourself to them and then co-market to their customers too, I think is a great way to drive, incremental inbound and incremental revenue. I think outside of partner as a really strong channel for us, we early on invested in kind of brand and thought leadership. And I think it's counterintuitive to some early startups that are really focused on channels that you can track the ROI specifically on. For us, we knew that we were in a category that needed thought leadership and evangelism. So I think it's dependent on the entrepreneur, the founder. If you're disrupting an existing beast, if you're a better CRM than Salesforce, you don't need to tell people that CRMs exist. They already know that. For us, we had to tell people sending platforms exist and tell them why they needed them. And so there was a lot of early brand evangelism of the category. And so depending on what category you're in as an entrepreneur, you might need to overinvest in kind of brand as a channel in the early days as well. And so that comes with things that are less trackable, like maybe events, maybe other ad spend that you're not trying to drive conversion with, and really just driving awareness too.
And just for that first piece, if you're doing, more integration, partner marketing, and you want to leverage, so you mentioned, okay, you integrate into the platform, you build some, functionality and integrate with the features. But then on the other side, you're saying, okay, having the cross promotion and any tips you can share with, people listening, how they can best leverage those partnerships and getting them to actually promote you, especially you I'm going to a SalesLoft today and say, hey, let's, help promote us. Any tips?
Yeah. So I would say one, if you have a one, focus on some exec to exec conversations. So it's important that you partner up with their, maybe their CRO, their head of partnerships, but also on the ground, the individual contributors. So sales teams speaking with their sales team, CSM teams co-successing with their CSM team. So really, it's not just about the company to company partnership, but it's about the people to people partnership. And that's often overlooked, but really early on, we had our salespeople try to be best friends with the salespeople at our partners. And we still do that today. And it's a great way to really drive referrals. There's also software you can use to overlay and map out shared customers or a customer versus a prospect. So we use software like Cabal or Crossbeam or CoSell.io. So there's some software out there to make co-selling easier.
Nice. That's awesome. And then on the flip side, so obviously, there's some successes in your marketing, but all those failures as well. Any, failed experiments, channels that you tried and you say, okay, this was a complete failure, you just wouldn't do again? And
I don't think there's really any failures in my eyes. It's like everything's a test, and I think we can always iterate it on. I'd say one thing that we kind of steered away on really early on, we thought, hey, should we create a whole new team that's focused on different verticals? And we really realized that that team was on an island pretty quickly. And so we kind of said, we killed that and said, let our existing team just figure out how they can all focus on different verticals themselves too. So we took, so that was something where in some cases, I think in startups, once you get to, 200, 300 people, you're like, okay, you're a little less nimble than you were when you were 25 people. And so you kind of think, hey, can I spin out a little skunk work team to do something quicker? And I think that's something that's hard to get right, as it's not necessarily that much easier than just getting everyone to kind of do it and move the ship in the same direction.
No, that's great advice. When it comes to customer churn, right? So I think we talked about how the physical gifts and the products help with go to market with sales and marketing, but then with the existing users, any thoughts on how including the product help with engaging, standing out, and and the net effect of reducing churn? Any thoughts on how that works out?
Yeah, so our product is used by thousands, if not tens of thousands of customer success or post-customer engagement people, like account managers or support people. And so a couple of things that I think you need to do as a company is you really first need to understand what are your reasons for churn, or what is affecting churn. Is it, hey, you're losing champions, and then you're single threaded, you don't have enough people at the company, and if that's a churn reason, then how do you use gifting to enable that? So maybe you do a better job of making more champions at the company, or you do a better job of tracking when your champion leaves, and then you send a welcome kit to that new champion once they join, so they're excited about using your product day one. I think that's an example. I think another example is maybe incentivizing product usage. If you know that if you're not seeing, if a company doesn't add more than 5 users to your platform, then their likelihood to churn. So how do you incentivize, maybe with a gift or with another incentive, to say, hey, get this cool t-shirt or get, donuts on us if once you add 5 people to the team. And so you can build in product incentives to drive usage, which if you've done your research, that usage leads to lower churn. And then I think the other way is just to build better relationships and rapport, especially in this very digital world we're living in. Be human about it. Hey, it's your customer's birthday. Hey, your customer just got a new puppy. Send them something. Hey, your customer had a bug and you want to go out of your way to say, hey, here's, lunch on me. Sorry for the issue. It's back online in an hour or something, and send them something. So I think there's different parts where you can just feel that human to human connection. And oftentimes the person that's going to be renewing is sure there's other choices in the market, and sure there's other could have been issues with your platform that would have caused churn. But if they have a strong connection to you as the person in your CSM team, then you can mitigate some of that churn risk by building better relationship strength.
Yeah, I think I saw that. It was a couple of years ago when I used ClickFunnels, right? And they had a pretty cool gamifying tool where, as they onboard you, you have to go through it. And then once you complete it, they would send you a t-shirt with, ClickFunnels shirts and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool, pretty genius. And I'm assuming, that's a good way to use it, right? To get people engaged.
Exactly.
Cool. And any other, just thoughts or advice for people who, SaaS founders who want to help, in terms of overall retaining and, reducing churn that maybe you've seen for yourselves?
I'd say one is just make sure you track a lot of different data, whether it's product usage data, leverage a customer success platform. So invest in software like Catalyst or another customer success tool. I think data and software are easy to overlook in the early days to say, hey, we're too small. We don't want to buy this software yet, or we don't want to invest in tracking data through software yet. And I would say that's a mistake. And the sooner you can focus on enabling your success team and enabling data capture, the better you'll be.
Nice. That's smart. And what's your take or kind of outlook on the trends of this market? Specifically, direct mail or physical gifts kind of going forward in the space.
Yeah, we're seeing an explosion in the space. 5 years ago when we invented this category, it was really nascent, in terms of sending platforms to enable sending at scale and for companies. Now we're seeing some competitors pop up, and we're seeing hundreds and hundreds of millions being invested in this category. And I think, I saw it very early because I was in sales in the trenches doing this myself and said, hey, there has to be a better way. And, I think investors caught on when they realized that there was hundreds of billions being spent inefficiently offline through spreadsheets or through one-off scenarios. And so I think that mixed with the trends in remote work and being able to engage with people who maybe previously would be more in person. Now you could send them stuff to build that rapport. So I think that the tailwinds from COVID only amplified this market, and I think we'll ultimately see, in my vision, in my opinion, every company will have a sending platform, just like they have a CRM, just like they have an email platform.
Nice. And do you guys send worldwide at the moment, or is it just?
We do. Oh yeah. We send worldwide. We have global warehouse facilities where we're warehousing around the world as well. And so we're a pretty global company.
A quick note from our sponsors today, and we'll be right back. This episode is sponsored by Contentify.co, a premium podcast editing and repurposing agency for busy content creators just like you. Are you spending too much time editing your podcast and end up with no time to stay on top of also publishing, sharing, reaching new listeners, while also staying ahead of the latest podcasting trends? Don't worry, Contentify has you covered. You no longer need to worry about spending hours editing and repurposing anymore. Just record your content and they handle the rest. Contentify is an end-to-end podcast editing and repurposing agency to help you grow your podcast by editing and repurposing quickly, easily, and reliably to share all over your social networks. And if you haven't even noticed, I also use them for the SaaS District podcast. So join other busy content creators just like you and me and start saving time and money while you grow your podcast show. Visit Contentify.co to learn more today. Kris, love to kind of shift gears more going into the personal questions, more rapid fire questions. So far, it's been really helpful. Just starting off, where are you guys in terms of size today? And can you guys talk about, you guys recently raised, I think $100 million Series C round. What's the plan with that? What's the expansion details?
Sure. So we've been around for about 5 years now. We've raised about $155 million to date. As you alluded to, about a month ago, we raised $100 million Series C. In terms of just the progression, so about a year and a half prior to the Series C, we raised a $40 million Series B. A year before that, we raised a $12 million Series A. A year before that, we raised a $2 million seed round. And then about 3 months before that, we raised about a $400,000 kind of angel convertible note round. So good progression along the way. We have about 500 employees now globally and growing quick. That should almost double by next year. And this $100 million in funding, our goal is to really double down on our customers, continue to build out amazing features, continue to invest in our global infrastructure, look at growth strategies through M&A and other opportunities there, and then ultimately just continue doing what we're doing and scale in all areas of the business.
Cool. Was that a decision from day one? Like, okay, we want to raise capital. Okay, did three, because that's pretty impressive, right? 300 or 400K angel to seed within 3 months?
Yeah. So we really, for the first 6 or 9 months of our business, it was bootstrapped. And so we got to a point where, we thought, hey, can we just bootstrap this the whole time? And it really got to a point where bootstrapping is hard when you have such high demand, in my opinion, because we were kind of trying to grow through revenue growth. And so we couldn't bring on our next employee till we really felt that we had enough money in the bank to support their paycheck. But we had more demand than we could ever imagine. So it's like, we have so many customers wanting demo or prospects wanting demos. We have so many customers getting onboarded. We needed support to, help with everything else. So it was really like, hey, do we want to like stop growing and bootstrap, or do we want to just continue the growth and then raise money? I think the one thing we did is once you start raising money, it's hard to stop. Because I think that, it's like, okay, you use this growth to get to the next stage. And then ultimately investors come knocking at your door if you're driving great traction. And so for most of our rounds, investors are the ones that kicked off the fundraising round. And so we raised not necessarily when we needed it, but when investors really saw the opportunity. So
that's actually a very, powerful framework of making a decision on when to raise, right? A lot of founders just think, okay, yeah, maybe, we should, we're not sure, but I think it's like, you'll know, right? If you're growing fast and you need the money, that's probably a good time that you should start thinking about it. And you can't handle the growth without it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when it came to your vision, you first started the product, you had an idea because you worked in sales, you saw how this could work using building a software like Sendoso. Compared to where it is today, how has that kind of evolved over time? And do you have an exit plan, or just plan to keep going until IPO, or what is the idea there?
Yeah. So I think the biggest evolution really came from originally, I thought this was going to be for salespeople and it was built for salespeople. Quickly realized that marketers love this, that customer success team loves this, that customer support team, that account management teams, that recruiting teams, that HR teams, that, other industries, client services, banking, hospitality. So I think the big evolution was the use cases and who was using it. That day one, I didn't envision for such rapid evolution of use cases. So I think that's the biggest change. I think the vision at the very core, which is, really helping inspire human connections and really making it easy to send something to somebody else, that has stayed true since day zero. I think as we've evolved, we've made it easier. We've made more selection. We've made it more integrated. We've leveraged more AI and data, but it all circles into that kind of inspiring human connection and sending things at scale. In terms of the exit, we're just having a great time, trying to have fun, trying to build a big business. I think an IPO is the obvious future for us as we continue to scale with great revenues and great team growth. But ultimately, our eyes on the day to day and really making it the best place to work with amazing customer success stories and just continuing to drive a strong product in the market.
Love it. That's awesome. Kris, what's one piece of advice you wish you had known, and if you're going back and would tell your 25-year-old self?
Gosh, it's a good question. I would actually say I don't have any regrets or things that I need to change. I think when I was 25, I had a startup that I started in college that I ended up selling. And so I was kind of an entrepreneur mindset from the get-go, but then I really realized I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I got back into working with other fast growing startups to really learn while in their organizations. And so I was patient. And so I kind of had that mentality, but I would say maybe for others who are 25, maybe there's a scenario where you're not patient. You're like, I need to start this startup today or I'm screwed. And I think maybe my advice to that is be patient. You can start it when you're 30 and exit when, you're before you know it. And so I would say, don't just rush in. But I would say, don't rush in. But if you are at that point where you do have the good idea, you are at the right place, then don't wait. So I think it's make sure when timing is right for you.
Do you remember that moment, when you knew it was the right time? Because you obviously found, okay, this product, this seems pretty good. I'm working in sales. I see it, working. Was there a aha moment? No, I have to double down and work on this?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of, the opportunity size was so huge. I validated it with a bunch of friends and colleagues and strangers. I had kind of an MVP that was getting used by random companies that were signing up for it. So all that pointed in the right direction. And then I kind of said, hey, what's the future? We can't live in a world where we're sending out a gazillion emails every day. Like, how else can we build rapport and what other channels are necessary? And so that's really where I saw that I had to jump in.
Nice. Can you share, who or what are some of the best, let's say 3 resources? It can be books, it could be people, mentors, people you follow in the space who you'd say have been the most instrumental to your success over these last few years. I mean, even before college, it seems you had some success as well.
Yeah. So I take a lot of inspiration from podcasts. And so maybe I'll answer this, my 3 favorite podcasts. Sure. So I really like How I Built This. I think it's really inspirational to hear other founder stories. I really like Planet Money, as there's really interesting inspirational stories there. And then a podcast called Acquired, where they go really, really deep on companies. And I think for me, the inspiration of hearing from, 0 to 1 and how companies got started, or from how they get to multi-billion-dollar companies, is fascinating to me and drives that inspiration. If, there's ever a roller coaster ride for a founder, hearing other people's success is something that you can kind of look up to.
Yeah, definitely. So cool. I mean, we'll add all those podcast links to our show notes, people to check out. Those are great podcasts. Kris, what does success mean to you today? Whether that's personally, business, financial, life? I mean, there's no right answer.
I'd probably say happiness. I think if you're happy, life's great. And so I think for me, success is just, if I'm happy, and, everything around me, if I'm happy, then I think a lot of things fall into place.
Nice. Love it. Cool, Kris. This has been great. Anything else you want to add? Final notes for anybody listening in?
If everyone wants to talk with me further, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, email me. It's Kris, Kris @sendoso.com. If you're curious to learn more about Sendoso, go to our website. You can see more there, but I'm always happy to connect with other founders, other CEOs or salespeople, anyone. So I love networking. So hit me up if you want to chat more.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining today on SaaS District Show today. Much, much appreciated.
You got it. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Thank you all for watching this episode and joining SaaS District today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes where we interview top leaders in the SaaS industry. If you're a SaaS company looking to grow and unlock the true value of your business, get in touch with us at Horizon Capital, and myself or one of our consultants will provide a free assessment to help you get there and hit your goals. If you have any feedback or suggestions for this podcast, please comment down below and help us improve our content for you all. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.